think there's too many kind of fucking people out there be like leadership, or like the Navy SEAL stuff. And I wanted to kind of be a voice for regular veterans because that's what I was. I didn't do anything especially cool in the military. And if you don't believe me, just look at American public education and it should be pretty obvious. I joined the military. He ended up getting drafted into the NFL. And eventually, I got off all of the sleep medication, all the anti-anxiety medication, all the medication that I had been on. As you can see, my backyard, I have a pool back here. I got mango, coconut trees, banana trees in my backyard because I live in the Dominican Republic where I have a higher quality life at half the cost. A lot of Americans don't think about moving abroad because we're the country that people move to, not the country people move from. Hey, if you're a student veteran, go in and say to your professor these two things. Like a really amazing thing for me, just from like a soul perspective. For me, I saw, visions of people in my life and how complicated life is, that sometimes you need a lot of different things. It's not just one pill. So it kind of put me a little bit more in touch with like my human emotions, because they don't have like the bureaucracy, the insurance, the doctors, the kind of scams, the United States healthcare system, to where I can walk to a pharmacy and just pretty much buy whatever I would need.
So I usually kick these off with you kind of like just going through your background, where you're from. I know you're from like cornfields of Iowa, but you can talk a little bit about that and what led you into the Army.
Sure. I grew up in the great state of Iowa, where John Wayne is from. I got my John Wayne shirt on today. And, like a lot of young people, finding myself was a task. And I wandered into college because that's where I thought I was supposed to do after high school. And at the time, I was way more focused on like girls and partying and not really interested in going into class. So after kind of like failing, stopping going to school, of course, that led me into the military recruiter's office. And I talked to all the branches and ended up deciding on the United States Army, where I did 10 years and then medically retired. I served in the 101st. I did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and then I did some time recruiting on my way out the door. And then when I got out of the military, obviously, like a lot of people, kind of figuring out what to do. And I ended up going to school and getting into working with student veterans, which led me to writing my first book about student veterans, talking to Congress as legislative fellow, and then ended up going to Harvard, where I was able to talk about issues with student veterans, student veteran employment, and all the things that kind of student veterans have to go through when you go to college, because obviously you're a non-traditional student. And then the past couple of years, I've been committed to helping veterans and inform veterans and, in a sense, kind of encourage veterans to retire abroad. As you can see, my backyard, I have a pool back here. I got mango, coconut trees, banana trees in my backyard because I live in the Dominican Republic, where I have a higher quality life at half the cost.
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm jealous. I mean, I don't have coconut trees, but California. What was it like? So talk about your Army time, because you've done your time, you did your deployments, you did 10 years, about the same amount of time as I did, but I know our paths crossed when you were recruiting in New York. I think that's kind of how we have so many mutual friends. But prior to that, yeah, do you want to just talk about your time in the Army and why you're so dedicated, like how that has impacted your dedication to veterans?
I think that the people closest to problems are always the one most best suited to solve them. That's kind of how I felt with student veterans, because I saw all these kind of like younger student veterans really struggling. And I kind of thought about how I could apply the military mentality to the college classroom. So I started like kind of doing that and getting into it. And then I really found a great purpose when people said that I helped them. When, I would do this program for student veterans that I created at the school I was going to, where it's kind of like an incoming checklist, kind of like you're taking on a new soldier or whatever in the Army. Like, here's your checklist, here's all the resources available to you, here's John's 10 rules to being successful in college, and then those 10 rules turned into a book. And then I kind of always looked for where can I fit in and be an asset to the veteran community. I think there's too many kind of fucking people out there be like leadership, or like the Navy SEAL stuff. And I wanted to kind of be a voice for regular veterans because that's what I was. I didn't do anything especially cool in the military. Like, yeah, I walked around Afghanistan, like a lot of infantry guys in the army. I got shot at a couple times, blown up. I never really knew what was going on the entire time. So finding myself getting out of the military was something I struggled with. And when I kind of like got the recipe for it, I started trying to share it with other veterans because listen, I've been married and divorced twice before I was 25. I had serious problems with like alcohol and taking pills the VA gave me. I struggled a lot with depression and those types of things. And then so I started kind of pursuing my own forms of therapy because the VA can only do their form of therapy. That's all they can do because it's all they are. So then when I started like branching off into all these kind of like various forms of therapy, I wanted to kind of share that story and then also talk to other veterans about it because a lot of veterans might not think of like viewing scuba diving as therapy or viewing riding motorcycles as therapy or doing something like ayahuasca or moving abroad. So I kind of always wanted to get in where there wasn't anything there. And that's what led to the student veteran book. That's what led to writing about moving abroad as a veteran. And that's what led to my current project of veteran affirmations because there's no affirmations out there for veterans. And affirmations can be such a powerful healing tool to develop like new neural pathways in your head if you really believe in them. And so that's kind of what led to it. And then kind of like having this kind of flair of creativity or wanting to be creative is what really purpose from it. And you need purpose in your life.
Yeah, I think that says a lot. So I know Cody Alford was just on the Resilient show, and he said the same thing. He was like, "You served. Less than 0.5% of the population serves." So there's something in that. You don't have to be a Green Beret to feel like you did something, and I think that
Yeah, and a
definitely
lot of
does.
veterans
Yeah,
feel that way. A lot of
yeah,
veterans
no,
feel that way. A
100%.
lot of veterans, you're like, I had a mop in my hand like half my military career.
Yeah,
So, and then you have
yeah,
all these veterans like, listen, and not that I don't think dudes like Cody is all awesome and guys like Jocko or guys like David Goggins or whatever, but I can't
yeah,
really relate to that because I'm
yeah,
not that cool. Like I can't
yeah,
relate to
yeah. I
be
wasn't
like,
a Force Recon Marine. Like, yeah,
no. And I'm
yeah,
not getting up at fucking 4 in the
yeah,
morning to go do jujitsu for 3 hours, then go do this and do that. Like so that's kind of what I
yeah,
try to talk to is like normal veterans because it can be, it's like a normal basketball player like relating to Michael Jordan. Like, oh, that
yeah,
they play basketball, but I can't really
yeah,
relate to that. Not that Cody's not awesome,
yeah.
and inspiring and all that stuff, but
Yeah. No, I just think it says something that, you have someone who is on this pedestal in the veteran community because they were Force Recon and who's also saying, like, dude, even though you held that mob for 4 years, like, you still contributed to the overall mission. And then, yeah, I was doing some. It's interesting because I've been talking to you for a few years now and you have been on this mission for a really long time. And it's finally starting to like echo like other professionals in the
yeah.
field. There was a health and wellness physician on the Huberman podcast who also talked about how your mentality affects your overall health, and you've been saying it for quite a while now. So it's good to see that there's also that like, hey, listen, it's not just me being a kumbaya person. It's proof in the science as well. Your Combat to College book that so I have a copy. And I wish I had that when I went through college because the Veterans Office, they were great, but it didn't provide me as much help as I thought I would have needed or that I did need. So you also have a veterans guide, the Student Veterans Semester Journal. Can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah, that's almost kind of easier because I realize, listen, a lot of veterans are already going to college. They don't want to read more, so they don't want to read a chapter book, even if it might be useful. But so the semester guide, what it is a college planner designed for veterans. So there's like a section in it for like your budget with your GI Bill. There's like a planning calendar in it. There is tips and tricks every single week. So for example, like one of the week tips, like for week 1, is going to be, hey, if you're a student veteran, go in and say to your professor these 2 things. How can I be successful in your class? And are there any other resources you recommend other than the class materials where I can deepen my knowledge? And those are the kind of tips that like veterans are very good at being told what to do. I mean, that's what the military is. You're just like told what to do all the time. And if you're operating in that framework, it's actually pretty easy. Then you get in the civilian world and nobody tells you what to do. And that can be kind of harder because I'm like, well, if nobody tells me what to do, I'm just going to like do stupid shit all day because that's what I am. And then so me telling veterans these like little tips and then being like, here's where you write in your assignments, here's where you write this down, here's all this information. And it's only designed, or it's specifically designed for a first semester student veteran, because so many student veterans go to college and it's like, I've never been in school, nobody in my family's been to school, I don't really know how to go about myself. So I was like, if you just take this guide and follow it for 16 weeks, it's going to talk about your midterm, it's going to talk about the finals, it's going to lay out everything you need to do to be successful in your first semester. So it's kind of like, how can I provide tools that don't exist for student veterans?
Yeah, and that's really important because when I went to college, I went to an Ivy League school, and I was like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I'm with like a bunch of 19-year-olds, and nobody's telling me what to do. I have no guidance. I'm also working, so there was also that. But yeah, and then so the another book that you have, and you and I kind of collabed on this, was the Freedom Challenge, which I absolutely
Yeah.
love. I love all the input that you got into that for that book. Do you want to talk about the Freedom Challenge a little bit?
Yeah, so that me and so like my best friend growing up when I joined the military, he ended up getting drafted into the NFL. Obviously, a lot different than the military, but a lot of the mentalities I found were kind of the same. And then he retired from the NFL about the same time I retired from the Army, and then we both really missed that kind of built-in structure of mentorship, teamwork, working out, having a challenge. Because if you don't have a challenge in your life, it can be hard to be motivated. So kind of the sports and military mentality are kind of similar. So what we did was design this like little journal where we got 12 athletes and 12 veterans to submit workouts, and then we wrote about our experiences like getting out of those worlds. And then kind of like you hit pause because there's nobody telling you to go to practice, or if you're in the military to go train, there's nobody kind of in your face to improve. You know, there's all this professional development and like built-in learning required in the military, because ideally if you're in the military you're getting, you know, stronger and smarter and a better leader every year, but then that fades away, and then that push to kind of get better and to constantly improve also fades away. And that's why a lot of like retired athletes, a lot of retired veterans kind of struggle when they get out, because that whole system just falls apart when you either step off the playing field or when you get out of the military. So, and then you miss all these other aspects about that, like, hey, having friends. Like in the military, you got a built-in friendship network, and same with like sporting teams and stuff like that. So we kind of designed it kind of as a fun, cool project, and it was a lot of fun to do. I hope to one day, you know, do like a second edition of it and things like that. But it's just, we call it a 90-day challenge, where it's like, hey, do this for 90 days. And it was fun. Like, it was a fun project.
Yeah, it was. I liked it. I also liked kind of, looking into some of the people that contributed, because there was a lot of awesome people that contributed in both like the veteran and fitness space, just in general. So no, that was pretty awesome. Now I want to get to like the most recent event. So you have your veteran affirmation book, which kind of complements the new initiative that you have with the newsletter and the YouTube channel. So do you want to talk about the book and then kind of a little bit about the newsletter and the new YouTube channel that?
Yeah, so I discovered kind of the power of affirmations for veterans, because as veterans we tend to be use dark humor, sarcasm, embrace a suck mentality, and then we get out of the military, you kind of have to rewire your brain, because the military is not like known for being like a super positive rainbows and butterflies type place. It's just not really what it is. So then you get out of the military, and a lot of veterans engage in this really destructive self-talk. We all have that internal voice in our head, and if we listen to it enough, it can really drag us down. So what I did was create a project for veterans of veteran affirmations, written with military culture, military creeds, military values, in language that we can understand. Because, in the military, we do have our own language, we do have our own terms, we do have our own creeds. So what I wanted to do was create this affirmation project just for veterans. So initially, I'm a writer, so I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna put it in a book. So I wrote 365 days of veteran affirmations, and this takes you from January 1st from January 1st to December 31st, an affirmation every single day. And I wrote them with language from the Navy, language from the Marines, and then I realized a lot of Marines just can't read. They're not going to pick up the book. So I was like, I got to do like so that led me into making the YouTube channel. So I just created a YouTube channel here in the Dominican Republic with a bunch of other veterans. So we're creating this project where it's like, hey, one veteran does like the performance, one veteran does the audio, veteran does the video, and then we're going to have this project of affirmations for veteran PTSD, affirmations for veteran success, affirmations for like veteran entrepreneurship and wealth creation and fitness and like relationships and stuff for female veterans. So it's just kind of on the ground now, but like the next video we're releasing on the channel is a veteran sleep meditation. Because what veteran do you know that doesn't, struggle to sleep sometimes? So we did this sleep meditation for veterans that I wrote, and this other veteran who's like a silky smooth voice, like he recorded it. And so I'm really excited about that because, that's something like I can really see the potential impact. If you're like, hey, if you're a veteran, here is a sleep meditation written for you. And that doesn't exist. And when you create something in the world that doesn't exist, it's really kind of like a beautiful feeling for me as a veteran trying to help other veterans.
Yeah, I really I liked the first one. You're right. He does have this like silky, smooth Barry White-esque kind of voice. And then
Yeah,
yours
and I
this
hate the sound of
morning.
my voice. Like everyone hates the sound of your voice. Like if you listen to
Yeah.
yourself, you're like, is that really what I sound like? So I did a bunch of them, and I'm going to record a few more and everything. But what I wanted to do was connect with all types of other veterans to come in and read about them and do like those types of affirmations because that is kind of missing from the veteran community. And we do have this tendency, like I talked about, to be so kind of self-destructive in our internal conversations. And when we can rewire our brains to say, hey, I am capable, I am healing, I am getting better, I am on my journey, I am a strong, powerful veteran. If you continue to say that to yourself, eventually you're going to believe it, even if you got to fake it till you make it. And before you achieve anything, you have to believe it. So that's what I wanted to do is put a tool in veterans' hands to be like, listen to this every day, and some of them are going to have humor, they're going to be different stuff, but I'm really excited about the channel. We got to get you down here to read some of them. You can do a Navy one, Navy affirmations.
Yeah, just keep swimming. Something along those
Yeah,
lines. No.
right.
I no, I really liked it. I love the affirmation thing because, I think as a veteran who has I myself has struggled with mental health, even though I am a,
Mm-hmm.
clinician at this point and I work in, cognitive behavioral neuroscience. I think sometimes that's something that we forget to do is like take care of ourselves. So I really liked the affirmation and I really liked the channel because it's, I listen to podcasts in the morning. So when I get that little
Mm-hmm.
notification that you guys have uploaded a new video, I can just pop it in and go about my morning. Because that's usually what I do. I either read something from an affirmation book or I read, I have a couple different like Bible study books. So like I try to spend the morning kind of focusing inward and I think your channel really complements that. Just, and is in our language, like get the fuck up and go do great things. Like that's
Yeah,
kind of
and we're
like
we're
yeah.
grinding with that because in the military, the morning is the most important part of the day. Like you get
Yeah.
up early, you get more done before most people even wake up. So or I guess my channel is going to have like morning affirmations for veterans. Hey, 5 minute morning prayer for Christian veterans. We're going to have
Mhm.
all these different kinds of things where like you said, like, hey, wake up, listen to this because how you start your day is usually how you're going to run your day. If you start your day positive, you're going to have a different type of a day. So I'm hoping to provide that for veterans through this YouTube channel.
Yeah, I also recommend the affirmation book. I kept it on my nightstand, just because it was like just the first thing. So I have like a little like morning routine, and the book was always there because it was like before I get up and like before I even look at my phone, I want to like take a second to just wake up and wake up on, a positive note. So I think that's super important. But
So
so
what's your
what?
routine like? Like what's your 15-minute warning? What's the Dr. Virga morning
Yeah.
routine of success looking like?
Gosh, it's like shit. I have to get up and go do stuff today. No, I love what I do, so I'm usually really happy when my alarm goes off. It's contrary to what most people feel, but so normally when I wake up, I have a few things on my nightstand. I have water, my little scoop of creatine, because that's the only time I remember to take it, and then I have a book and I have my headphones. So either I pop something in, and I lay there for 15 minutes, kind of unwind, I guess start to wind up, and then or I'll read something and then I get up and kind of get into my morning routine. I just now that it's not as chilly out here, I swim in the morning. But when I get to the pool, I don't want to get to the pool stressed. So kind of getting there and it being my time is really important for me. So the affirmation book really helped with that. I also, being able to write in that book and being able to reflect,
Yeah.
I think was also extremely important. So there's also some pens. I have pens everywhere, but like I also would take a second to like either make a journal entry or now I'm actually writing in the margins of the affirmation book because you can always go back. Like, what did I do
Yeah.
this today last year? And that's what I really liked about the book as well, because I can kind of see what was I thinking, you know, February 11th last year. So,
Hopefully you're
but
in a better place now
yeah,
than where you were then, and that's what progress is. I live in the Dominican Republic, so we don't set alarms here, so I wake up,
yeah,
whatever I wake
yeah.
up.
I want to talk about that. Why DR? Why out of all the places you could have lived, why DR?
So the Dominican Republic, me and my friend always say, is the best country in the world for veterans for a few reasons. One is that we have a thriving veterans community here. So now me and the group that me and my buddy co-founded is having like quarterly veteran events. We are having like veteran beach days. We're doing veteran activities and excursions where we get together like, anywhere between like 10 and 20 veterans and we all go do something. I mean, we have that kind of built-in camaraderie and community here. Secondly, so here in the Dominican Republic, we have veteran healthcare centers that are set up for veteran healthcare. So you can get all your service-connected healthcare here in the Dominican Republic. So I go do my, weekly physical therapy for my back. I do aqua therapy. And then the centers also put on some cool events like yoga on the beach. So we go do yoga on the beach together and things like that, which can be a lot more healing than medication. And moving here, it stepped me back from kind of like, I think the American mentality, the American world, the American consumerism, all that stuff. And then I started thinking about what's really important. And eventually, I got off all of the sleep medication, all the anti-anxiety medication, all the medication that I had been on. And then the immigration stuff here is really easy. You don't really need to do anything. Whereas when I was living in Thailand prior, when I was teaching English there, it's the bureaucracy, it's really hard. Here, you can come here, pretty much stay as long as you want, and then you just pay money when you leave, depending on how long you stay for. So I would say the veteran community here, the healthcare for veterans, the mental health aspect, the immigration aspect, make the Dominican Republic one of the best countries for veterans to retire in. And then like where I live is incredibly safe, and I think that plays a lot into it too because I think anyone who lives in an American city, especially a major city, you have to kind of stay on your guard. You have to kind of stay alert. Then you're devoid of nature. You're surrounded by like everything from like noise pollution to real life pollution. And then coming here enabled me to really like connect with nature. Like I mentioned, I got mango trees in my backyard. I can go literally get a mango off the tree and eat it this afternoon if I want. And for me coming here and being able to engage in that type of stuff was really mentally, emotionally, and spiritually healing.
Yeah, I think there's so many benefits. I know I was always a little scared, and you had made a comment in one of your videos, and I was like, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. You had made a comment that DR was, you made a comment about the safety in DR, and I was like, no fucking way, because I've done the crime stats for DR, like it's my field now, but and then I looked and I was like, shit, he's right. I was like, son
Yeah,
of a
and it
bitch.
depends what area.
Yeah,
Obviously, like there's
yeah,
places that you avoid that you don't go to,
yeah.
but a lot
Well, that's
of people
anywhere.
view
Yeah.
America, yeah, and a lot of people view America as like oh, but America is kind of wildly dangerous because like you don't have like mass shootings here, that kind of thing obviously doesn't exist, and you don't have a ton of what I don't know the legal. You could probably help me, but like bystander crime or randomized crime, like that doesn't really happen here. Like that random crime that happens in the States of like, you know, you're walking on the street and somebody stabs you or you randomly robbed or something like that. That kind of stuff doesn't really happen as much here as it does in the United States.
Yeah, I think so. What I did was I looked at the per capita, right? Like how many crimes are occurring in the United States and a general metropolitan area that would be similar to the DR, and it's actually a lot less, and you're 100% right. I mean, there are pockets. I have, tons of, I'm from New York, so I have tons of friends that are from DR, and there are little pockets, but like that's the same thing. Like nobody wants to travel down Skid Row in LA or
No, it's just
go,
like that.
yeah, no one wants to go to the Bowery in New York at night. So, and I think if you traded that for going and grabbing a fresh mango every day, like that doesn't sound like a bad like a bad
Yeah, and
idea.
we have a police force here called the Politur, which is basically tourism police, and that's in every like tourist area or high expat area or something like that. You have this tourist police, and crimes here against foreigners are basically treated in the United States like hate crimes would be. Like if you commit a crime against a foreigner, like if you're like say you're Dominican and you create a crime, you rob or whatever to a foreigner, your crime, your punishment is through the roof. There's no way getting out of it. They're going to lock you up and throw away the key because so much of the country is reliant on tourism dollars, cruise ships that come in, resorts, and all those types of things. That if you commit a crime against, it's that's what one of the reasons why it's so safe because they know like so much of the country's economy is based on tourism. Like you need surfers coming in, you need people coming to play golf, you need all the stuff that Dominican Republic has.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, and this is totally selfish because you've made DR seem like a dream, and I'm like, I will gladly retire. I've retired in a few years, so I'm like, I will gladly pick up and go. I had planned on traveling the world anyway, but having a home base on a freaking island sounds amazing. But my question is, so veteran resources. So if I'm a veteran and I've decided that I want to move to DR, what would be what would be the first thing that you recommend that I do?
The first thing is to come visit and stay for an extended period of time. So I kind of call this like a moving abroad trial run because a lot of people kind of fantasize about stuff in their head. I call it the margarita effect, is where like you go somewhere on vacation and you're like, oh, I want to live here. Like I'm here on vacation. I'm at the resort every day. I'm like drinking beer at the pool. I'm eating the buffet at night. I want to move here. So then a lot of people kind of feel that way and then they come and they're not really prepared for the reality and the culture shock and all that stuff. One thing about veterans is we're like really good at other cultural stuff because you're constantly kind of like meeting people from different places and doing different things and traveling around. So I think veterans are really well suited to be expats. But I would say the first thing, if you're thinking about moving abroad, is come stay for like a month, see how you feel, do more real life activities. And in my free veterans guide to moving abroad, which I have on my website, it has some of these steps where it's like, hey, when you come here, don't just eat at the expensive restaurants. Like go live life more like a local, go to local stores, go get your laundry done, live life like you normally would. But I love being here, and when I came here, it's like, man, there's so many veterans already here. There's so many veterans who are thriving, and I see so many veterans in the United States just kind of surviving or struggling. So coming here is an option for I think more and more veterans, especially as the cost of living goes up in the United States, as kind of like the bullshit takes over. If you can come here and work on yourself, even if not for, a lot of people come here to Dominican Republic and just spend the winter here. Like come here for the winter, like instead of moving here full time. So for me, it's like my home base. I go to Thailand on Sunday. I'll be in Thailand for like a month. So I think that would be my second favorite country for veterans, and then third maybe the Philippines because they speak English in the Philippines, which is helpful and it's incredibly cheap. Sure. So my first apartment here I lived in for 3 years, and my rent was $500 a month, and I just paid that upfront in cash for the entire year. And I was like, here's the rent, and I don't have to even think about it. So not having to kind of think about money all the time to me was really good. Was really cool. Like just not because in the United States, I know anyone watching this, it feels like you're constantly paying for stuff. I mean, every day you're like another bill, another tax, whatever. So kind of taking that out of my life, having to pay rent like all the time was really cool. And then as far as like food goes, obviously way cheaper in the United States. I mean, so I have a cafeteria that I walk to that's like, I don't know, 200 yards from my house, or I take my golf cart because I own a golf cart. So I'll go there for like lunch, and that'll cost me like $4 or $5, and that'll be enough usually for lunch and dinner. So you can come here and live incredibly cheap. And I know veterans that come here and are like, they spend $1,500 a month, all in. And I know some veterans that come here and they spend like 5 grand a month because they're going out, they're doing baller shit, they're kind of living the life. Because if you come here, I'll just use generalized figures. If you come here like with your 100% or like maybe 4 grand a month, you're in the top 5% of earners in the country. So you can kind of take that and put it in United States terms. That's like you're making like 300 grand in the United States or something like that. If you take your 4 grand a month or 5 grand a month and you go to the Philippines, then you're in the top 1% of earners. A lot of people don't think about income levels kind of in those terms, but in order to be in the top global 1% in the entire wide world, all you need to make is like $60,000 and you're in the global 1%. So most Americans are in the 1%, just not the 1% of America. They're in the global 1%.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, I mean, anybody with a rating over like 50%, I mean, maybe even less than that, could live there comfortably, reasonably, and not even
Yeah, I
think
usually
about it.
tell like here, 100% you're good. Like, that's usually what I tell people. Like, because you always spend more money, especially the first few months as you kind of figure stuff out. When I came here, I didn't speak any Spanish. Now my Spanish is like pretty good to where I'm
Yeah.
passable, to where I can get by.
Yeah.
So learning that obviously helps
Yeah.
a lot when it comes to like just
Yeah.
life.
I I think I've heard you speak Spanish once. It was awesome. It was hysterical. But hey,
Yeah, I
right?
talk like a second grader in Spanish, but I can
Yeah.
communicate, I can get by,
Yeah.
I can go out, I can talk to people, so that's kind of what I want to do.
So what so you talked about these like monthly, was it meets that you have with your group of veterans. What does that look like? So you guys are scuba diving. I know you got scuba certified at some point, right?
Yeah, so scuba diving's fun. We just did a fishing trip last week. We took out like two boats with like 30 veterans with one of the veteran centers here. And then we have our next for my organization, Veterans in Paradise, which you can see veteransinparadise.com. We're having our next event April 9th. And this is going to be for any veterans who are interested in coming to the Dominican Republic or veterans who are already living here. And it's going to be information on things like real estate, information on things like healthcare, mental health, fellowship. We're going to be having some like raffles and some cool opportunities because a lot of what we want to do is just build this supportive community of veterans here. So we have friends, you have battle buddies, you have people you can rely on, people within the community. And then we also talk about things like how we give back to the community. So we're going to be doing things to raise money for some local kids organizations at our veterans event April 9th. So if any veterans are like, I want to check out Dominican Republic, you can come that weekend or that week, and it's gonna be a cool time with a lot of veterans, a lot of fun, a lot of information and networking.
Yeah, I every year at Christmas I send toys and gifts to the kids out in DR. I have a friend who collects everything. She's from Florida. She's in the Navy right now, but she'll collect donations and she'll bring it down there. And that's definitely that's awesome no matter where you are, whether it's going to DR, whether it's going to the suburb in New York. So if I go down there, I spend that month, I decide I want to live there. I know you have your veterans moving abroad. I have to leave a link for that in the description. What does it look like to get enrolled in healthcare there? Do you have to do anything with the Department of Veterans Affairs, or do you just walk into one of those clinics?
So you can go to a clinic, and as of now, the clinics only treat service-connected veterans. So, but they don't really turn veterans away. So if you have a service connection, then you can get your treatment there. And how it works is through the foreign medical program of the Veterans Administration. So you go into the center, you get enrolled, and then they basically get your information from the VA. They get your records sent down to the clinic, and then they can see everything. So like for mine, go down, they can see all my ratings, what I get treated for, and then you can basically just do treatment there. And then the center itself bills the Veterans Administration. So there's nothing out of pocket for veterans, which is kind of just a cool thing because like I don't want to in some places, the foreign medical program, you have to pay up front and then they reimburse you. But here in the Dominican Republic, basically you go in, you do your treatment, you sign, hey, my name's John, I did physical therapy on this day. They bill the Veterans Administration pays them, and you can come in and get enrolled in like 30 minutes. It's usually best to just do it here, opposed to in the States. A lot of veterans are like, oh, I want to enroll in the foreign medical program. You have to do it like by mail in the States, and it takes a lot of time. It's kind of complicated. It's best to just come here, walk into a clinic, and you can get enrolled within like 30 minutes.
Oh, that's easy as hell. Okay, so it's
And
kind of
then
like
when it
community
comes to like
care. Yeah.
normal healthcare, yeah, it's the easiest thing in the world. So then when it comes to normal healthcare, like if you maybe you're not service connected or you're not a veteran, then you could pay like $1,000 a year for like top notch healthcare where you're good to go all the way. And plus, the like the pharmacies here, for example, you have everything over the counter. So a lot of veterans who come here, they're like, oh, I need medication for diabetes or hypertension or like blood pressure or whatever else people take medication for. You could just go to the pharmacy and buy it for a couple of dollars. Like most of the
Yeah.
medications are insanely cheap because they don't have like the bureaucracy, the insurance, the doctors, the kind of scams the United States healthcare system to where I can walk to a pharmacy and just pretty much buy whatever I would need.
That's how I felt when I went to Mexico. I walked in
Yeah.
to like I didn't know it was a pharmacy. I thought it was like a little bodega, like little store, and they had like everything on the counters, and there was no
Yeah.
questions asked. Like, oh, you want this right here? I'm like, that requires like a prescription and like a sign of
Yeah.
Congress to
No.
even get that. So no, that was kind of like one of my big concerns, and I'm sure other veterans share the same sentiment. Can let's talk about your veterans moving abroad because I remember when that first came out, you released a series of videos kind of like demystifying and talking about some stuff like giving up your guns, which I know a lot of veterans don't want to do. But can you kind of talk about the guide and then some of the big things that might keep a veteran from going down this avenue?
When I started talking about moving abroad, initially it was kind of just for fun, and it was during the pandemic because I'm on the Dominican Republic, I'm in the Dominican Republic on the beach, and I'm like hanging out and drinking beers, and all of America was like a loony bin, like stuff was burning down, people running around all crazy. So I just started sending funny videos to my friends, like I'm in the Dominican Republic, like I'd be on a boat or something drinking a beer, and they're in the United States, like going through all the pandemic stuff. And then people ask me, like, my buddy's like, so you're really living down there? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, there's lots of veterans here. We all hang out. And then that kind of led me into trying to be more informational and being like, oh, okay, like, I see the need for this. Like, initially, I was just kind of screwing around. And then when I decided to stay here long term, I wanted to let other veterans know that this is a possibility for you as well, because a lot of Americans don't think about moving abroad because we're the country that people move to, not the country people move from. But I wanted a high quality life at a lower cost. I wanted to work on my mental health. I wanted to kind of escape the chaos of the United States. So I came abroad, and then since I came abroad, like we kind of had this big program, all these veterans here, all this stuff that happens here in the Dominican Republic, and that's definitely why I'm going to stay here. I think a lot of veterans are hesitant to move abroad. One, I think you have the language thing here, in most expat areas, there's actually a high level of English because Dominican Republic is so close to the United States, and tourism is so high here that I do know some veterans that come here that don't learn any Spanish, which I think you should learn, enough to get by. And then you can't really bring guns here. Once you come here, you stay for a while, you can get a gun, but there's so many rules to it, like the bureaucracies with gun ownership is really high. So I think that stops a lot of veterans. And then there's some of the kind of fear of the unknown that I think is can create some anxiety. So that's one reason why we're like, okay, hey, April 9th, we'll have this event. If you want to come down and really check it out, like find out the real story about living here, you can come here, meet veterans living here, talk to us, find out about the healthcare, find out about real estate. Because we'll have like, some people we know like in the community who do healthcare or doctor there, people do real estate stuff. So people can kind of like ask their questions and find out that information. So, and then, a lot of people don't think family life is for people abroad. Like most people that move abroad are like single people because obviously like it's kind of more of a thing. But I worked in international education and I can tell you that like the private international schools are usually superior to American public education. And if you don't believe me, just look at American public education and it should be pretty obvious.
Yeah, as a product of public school, I can tell you that it sucks. Public schools, like, we didn't have a music program,
No.
there was no gym. Like, yeah, no, I have a friend who teaches in Korea. He is a Navy veteran. He teaches English in Korea, but his thing is he goes to work there to make money, and then he just hikes all over the world. He goes by Mountain
Yeah.
Man. He's in a different country and he's like hiking across it. He did all the major hikes in the U.S. and yeah, and from what I've seen, it's the education quality is definitely through the roof. So, have
Yeah,
you?
and you're 100% right about the like programs that they have here, where here they have more like music and art oriented stuff. And also, private education can kind of be more flexible and adapt with the kind of changing, the rapidly changing technology stuff, whereas public schools are kind of set on this curriculum that takes a long time to ever change. So I find, a lot of international private education really well geared to set people up for a successful life in our kind of like high paced technology world, whereas public education is like setting people up just to like fail when they hit the real world.
Yeah, that's I went on this like big rant one of my last podcast episodes where I was like, public education is designed to create consumers. It's
Yeah,
not designed to create independent thinkers. And I
no,
think that's
100%.
where other countries shine. I also like the idea of, I don't have kids, but I like the idea of if I had a kid that they would learn multiple languages. Because whenever I watch world leaders talk, like Canada, the Canadian Prime Minister gave his speech in French and then English. Same thing with Mexico, English and then Spanish. So I look at all these world leaders that speak multiple languages because they've been practicing fluently since they were in school. And that's my remedial third grade Spanish is not going to get me a damn thing except where's the library? Like, I don't know shit. Like,
Well, you can
but
find it. You can find the library, the bathroom. Then
yeah,
that's at least a
just
start.
donde está. I was like, I think that's awesome. I remember, gosh, it was on one of your posts. There was a guy. I want to say it was on your one of your Instagram posts. There was a guy who basically thanked you for the moving abroad guide because he left. Him and his whole family moved to Thailand or the Philippines,
Hmm.
but your guide helped him literally uproot his entire family. I think he had 3 kids and move. And I was like, that's how you know that you created something of value. Because a single person to someone who's getting out of the army after 25 years of service and has kids and deep roots in the US has everything that they need to move abroad. So, do you want to talk about the guide real quick? Kind of like what it includes?
Yeah, so it's basically everything that you would need to know. And so I did a first edition, and then after the first edition, like so many people were asking me like follow-on questions and more stuff. So I wrote an expanded second edition, which was like 150 some pages, and this is going to include a ton of links and resources to different things about being a veteran moving and living abroad. What I wanted to do was kind of write like an FM for moving and living abroad for veterans. Like, here's everything you need. Here's every resource you could possibly think of. Here's how you set up your mail. Here's how you do banking stuff. Here's how you do your taxes. Kind of all those things that are kind of like the nitty gritty details you have to do. But then also be able to share my own personal story about why I moved abroad and my life now and how I'm like living a high quality life at a very low cost and how my mental health has been so much better since I moved abroad. So I wanted to kind of spread that message to other veterans in like kind of a friendly and fun way, and I made it totally free. So it's like every veteran can just here's the information, here's the links, here's everything you need to know, the step by step guide about moving abroad. So that was like really cool to do, and I love to write. For me, it's therapeutic, it's cool, and being able to share my personal story about moving to the Dominican Republic and then the veterans here and everything like that has been awesome. So I'm gonna do a third edition of it. I'm gonna get started on it here soon to kind of incorporate more information. Like the second one, I forgot to write about like pets abroad, like how do you bring your service animals abroad, and kind of like, and you're someone who asked me about that type of stuff. So it's gonna have more information like that, and then well as kind of like some expanded information and resources.
Yeah, that's one of the avenues I've been considering as I move up in my regular job is taking a gig out in Germany. And because I tried and we have an office in the Virgin Islands and I was like, "Hey, do we need anybody down there?" Like I'd love to move, but there was a lot more loopholes and not loopholes, but like hoops I have to jump through to bring my dog down there. But Germany was like, "This is because we all the bases that we have out there, they're like, this is what you need to
Yeah,
bring your
there's
pet."
huge.
Yeah. But
There's
I
tons of
noticed
veterans in Germany.
yeah, I also noticed that just kind of on the pets topic is that pet care is so much better in other countries. It's like, first of all, in Germany it's free because people pay a pet tax that covers most of your vet costs. But how would you say, so if I were to bring my service animal to DR, is it the same kind of rules? Like I can bring them into a restaurant if it's like an actual service dog? Okay,
No,
that's interesting. Yeah. What are the,
no, like the American Disability Act, the ADA, like has specific protections in America,
yeah.
and a lot of veterans kind of run into that roadblock because here in the Dominican Republic and a lot of other countries are just not as animal friendly. Like in the United States,
Yep.
animals are your kids. They're like you can take them anywhere. You take them to Starbucks, and so people that have dogs, like you know, they're not as widely accepted. Like you couldn't take a dog into like a mall here. Like people would be like, "What the hell are you doing? You can't bring a dog into the mall." Whereas
Yeah.
in the United States, you can. So a lot of other countries are like that. More westernized countries are going to be more dog friendly. Places like Canada, places like in Europe, like those are more animal friendly places. So, but there are, you know, and then here you have like stray dogs. So like whenever you see a dog on a leash, hey, that's like a
Right.
a
Yeah.
person's dog or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's different. The ADA exists in America, so that's one thing I also wanted to talk to veterans about when I do the
Yeah.
third edition. That guide like some of those kind of little things as like
Yeah, I'm curious how that would work. I mean, I don't, anybody who has a dog that is like an emotional support animal, I think that's great, but they're not service dogs. And even though they're protected under the ADA, they're not actually providing a service in the
right.
legal sense, meaning that they're not detecting a seizure or they're not guiding you because you're blind. So that would be, I think that would be interesting because I mean, that might really narrow a list down for veterans who are looking to live abroad. Because I know when I
Yeah,
retire, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. Like, I love the
yeah, and
US, but yeah,
a lot of people don't understand the difference between an emotional service animal and a service dog. Like a
yeah,
service dog is like a expensive, like $20,000 type German Shepherd who can find like bombs and things like that.
yeah,
And your emotional service animal is just because you want your Chihuahua to go with you to Starbucks or
yeah,
something. Like
yeah,
there's kind of a big difference. So, I think that can be something that can hold veterans back from going abroad is animal ownership. But you can come here and bring your dog here. Like all you gotta do is get like a rabies shot before you come, get a
yeah,
certificate from a vet saying your dog is healthy enough to fly, and you can absolutely bring your pet here. And all the airlines have like a ton of information about traveling with pets on their websites, so you can figure that out. But as far as like the actual service dog aspect of bringing a dog like that to Dominican Republic is like no, like it's not the same.
yeah. I think for me, if I was gonna live abroad and really do that, I don't think it would be fair to a pet to kind of go through all of that and the crazy quality of life change for them. I'd probably wait until it was just me. That's just my personal opinion. Is I would wait until it's just me, and then this way I have more flexibility. I don't have to worry about my own shots. I don't have to worry about their shots too, and everything else, and getting them acclimated. Plus, I feel like if they're not as widely accepted and I want to go sit on the beach all day or I want to go run around town and I can't bring my dog, like I'd hate to leave them in an apartment, but that's just a personal opinion, I guess. But so okay, so you're going to Thailand for a month. How does that work when it comes to citizenship? I know you mentioned that you have to like pay out basically when you leave DR. It's like a very small fee, and I'll leave that in the comments. It's nothing. You and I had talked about that before, but yeah, what's that like with the citizenship?
So I'm still an American citizen, still pay American taxes, still have my American passport and all that stuff. And then I come down here, and I think I've been here for like 2 or 3 months at this point. So then when I leave, I'll pay like $60 at the airport or something like that, like to get on the plane. So basically, I'll just go to the airport, they'll look at my passport, they'll say, okay, you've been in the country for X amount of days, pay the money. I know some veterans that come here and stay for like 4 years without leaving. And then you leave, you're like, oh, you have to pay like $300 or something like that. So it's not that much money or a big deal or something to think about. But if you do want to get citizenship here, you can. And you might want to do that if you want to run a business, if you want to like buy property, if you want to do things like that. That sometimes having the dual citizenship can be good. And you can have dual citizenship and it doesn't impact like your military benefits or anything like that. The only thing I would say to that is you can't renounce your citizenship, otherwise you lose your military benefits, which why would you renounce your citizenship anyway?
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think that's why a lot of folks have found like Puerto Rico, or any
Hmm.
U.S. territory appealing, is because there's a little less of that, but there's also it's at a cost. It's going to cost more to live in Puerto Rico, and
Yeah, Puerto
than
Rico
it
is
is
pretty
anywhere else.
expensive.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's U.S. territory, and people go there because of the tax benefits. Like Logan Paul, for example, not that he's a veteran, but he lives there for the tax benefits, and because it's a little bit easier to travel, like, little things that I think are worth the sacrifice considering how much more you get in DR.
Yeah, there's no perfect place. Like, there's always issues. Like, like I said, Thailand, it can be pretty hard unless you have like a ton of money, then it's easier. Or if you're over 50, it's easy to get the retirement visa there. And in most countries, like let me take an example, somewhere like Costa Rica or Panama, if you can show that you get like over $1,400 a month, then you're good to go with their pension program. They have like pension visas. And that's basically to get the Americans and the Europeans who don't want to retire within their own country. They want to go somewhere that's like expat friendly, like Costa Rica or Panama. And there's a lot of other places in the world. So I kind of list some of that information in my guide, like how much you need to make per month to get to apply for some of this visa stuff and everything. But of course, it's not very much. Like I think Mexico is like 1,500, 1,600 a month. That if you want to go live in Mexico with their pension program, you just have to show that you make that much amount, which most veterans do.
Yeah, oh yeah. I went to Rosarito last time I was in Mexico, and it's all just most of them are like Navy retirees who retired at a Naval
Yeah,
Base San Diego. They just crossed the border, and there's also a lot of Americans who live in Mexico and commute every day.
million Americans live in Mexico. Like a ton of Americans live there, and Mexico actually has like something else I should mention is Mexico also has like 10 American Legion posts. So they're all, and they have like a bunch of VFWs there too. So there are a veteran community kind of already established there. There's also like an American Legion post in Costa Rica that's really big. They have a Marine Corps League there that's pretty good. They have VFWs in the Philippines. Like I went to the Philippines a couple months ago, and I was at a really nice VFW there. They have in Thailand too. So you have these like veteran communities abroad that a lot of people don't really know about. So that's kind of one thing that I've been talking to veterans about is just like you can move abroad and there are other veterans there. It's not just, you moving abroad. So that's one thing that we're trying to create here is like a supportive, receptive community for veterans. If they want to come here, like you can come here and we'll tell you everything, help you out, and help you live a good life. And God forbid, if you're a veteran who's struggling with your mental health, if you're you know, hurting or something like that, then sometimes you need a break. Sometimes you need a fresh start. And there's real beauty in a fresh start. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Like, it's hard to hit the reset button if you're in your current situation, in your current environment, in your current job, around the same people. So moving abroad is like the ultimate fresh start where I came abroad and I wanted to kind of like reinvent myself. There's stuff about all of us that we don't necessarily like. And I wanted to kind of like downplay the stuff I didn't like about myself and upplay like the stuff that I liked about myself. And coming here and getting to start over was like a really amazing thing for me, just from like a soul perspective.
Yeah. Real quick, I wanted to talk about your trip to Peru because I am going to be talking to Luke. Luke is going to be on the podcast in a couple of months. What was that like being at the I forget the name of the retreat, the ayahuasca retreat, right?
hmm Yeah, so I wanted to go with like I wanted to do ayahuasca mainly because I saw so many veterans people talking about it. It was kind of like you hear it a little bit. I've never done drugs before. Like a lot of veterans, like I used to get fucked up. Me, I never did drugs before. Like I love to drink, but I never did any like real drugs before. And when I started seeing all these veterans talk about the incredible benefits they got from doing some plant-based medicine like ayahuasca, I wanted to do it myself. And I wanted to go to like the root of it, like in Peru, like that's where it is, like that's where they have the plants, that's where it comes from. Like I didn't want to do it, in Mexico or Colombia, or Colombia's pretty good, but I wanted to go like the shaman stuff and kind of go through it. So I found Tiwa's Awakening online, and the the gentleman you're talking about, Luke, he's a good mix of like a hippie and intelligent and kind of cool. So that kind of really attracted me to it. And then they incorporated other stuff that other retreats didn't, like brain scans. They also had like martial arts there. So we did jujitsu, we did hikes, we did some cultural stuff that I wanted to get into. So then doing the actual ayahuasca was an incredible experience to where like, and it's kind of different for everyone. Like my personal experience with it was pretty emotional, and it kind of like broke me down a little bit to like your core, and you really think about stuff from a different perspective. For me, I saw, visions of people in my life, and everyone has people in their life that shouldn't be in their life. Everyone has people they should cut out. And to me, the ayahuasca kind of showed me like in different colors, like the good, positive people in my life and the bad people in my life, because we all kind of have these individuals around us or these situations that drain us that we know we need to stop feeding. So for me, it was kind of like a really good confirmation to be like, some people I should push away and some people I should bring forward. So that was kind of like one big thing I got from it. And then also it kind of like opened me up emotionally. I think as veterans, we're kind of told to be like robots, rigid, you stand there in formation. So it kind of put me a little bit more in touch with like my human emotions. And then also, another thing I wanted to do was have a better relationship with like alcohol because that was something that I've struggled with in the past, especially when I was in the military and getting out of the military, was I wanted to kind of develop a healthier relationship with alcohol. I don't want to be one of those veterans. It's like, oh, I don't drink anymore. I'm going to keep drinking, but I want to do it in a way that's better. So, having the medicine help me with that was also a big benefit because since the experience I had a couple months ago, I've been better about drinking and about my personal relationship with alcohol.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that. So, so you're the first video on our mental health series. So Luke will be on. I also have Dr. Leslie Coing, if I remember her name correctly. She is a Navy veteran. She was a doctor in the Navy. She was green side. She was with the Marines the entire time, and she now runs her own clinic focused on veteran mental health. And a lot of it is more of like integrative medicine, so incorporating things
Mhm.
like how Tiawa's Awakening, right, with Luke's stuff.
Mhm.
So they're both going to be on to talk a little bit about that because I think that, and at least for me, I've had a really bad experience. I love the VA. I will say that. Like, I've had a really good experience with the VA, but when it comes to the VA mental health stuff, I've had terrible experiences with them. They put me on all these crazy medications, and the medications had like all these crazy side effects. And then I just decided I didn't want to do anything anymore with them. And they were like, nope, we're not going to treat you anymore, was their response. So then I found this, like, being a holistic doctor myself, I found other means. It's kind of like putting myself in the patient seat. So things like the ayahuasca, things like the veterans affirmations, I think there's really a lot of help out there for veterans or anybody struggling with their mental health or want to improve their overall quality of life. And, sometimes it is just getting up and just starting over, just going somewhere new. But
Yeah, and a lot of the ayahuasca stuff is done like in the before and after too. Like I did 30 days, like you follow a special diet, you get your body ready for it, and afterwards you kind of have to do the integration into your life. Like it doesn't really help if you like just show up, do the drugs, and then without kind of the preparation for it. So like there was an aspect to it that I should mention that that's kind of like the valuable part is like for a few weeks beforehand, like I didn't have any alcohol or sex. I didn't, I was living like a monk. I was just kind of hanging out, not eating pork, not eating spicy food. So it's kind of getting yourself ready for that. And then afterwards, I did a lot of like meditation and things like that to kind of like make it take hold to where I actually got value from it. And the thing about like ayahuasca is like you got to pay for it. Like that's how it is right now. Like the VA is not going to do it, but how much is their health worth? How much is like you know your mental health and fresh start worth? And if you're, I always tell people like when it comes to ayahuasca, since my experiences, if you're a veteran and you've tried a bunch of different shit and none of that worked, then what do you got to lose? Like what are you scared of? Like it's just go do it. And that's probably terrible advice. I'm not a doctor, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But what do you like?
yeah. I mean, there's ways to do it. No, I agree. And I think for me, I think if the medication is helping you and you're reaching your treatment goals, then fabulous. Like there should be a goal for
Right.
your treatment plan. But for me, the goal was unattainable because the medication seemed to give like an artificial happy, and then it was very like one of the medications I was on was an SSRI, and my body just hated it. I gained a ton of weight. Like I was actually having mobility issues, like joint problems, and they're like, "Oh, you're allergic to it," like 3 months later. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take my treatment and I'm going to take my own mental health into my own hands because you guys are doing the best that
Yeah.
you can, but the treatment plan you've created for me is not helping. And I think that independence is a little bit freeing, assuming that you have the ability to do that and you're not entirely dependent upon the medication because not everybody has this experience. But I think that's great, and I think that maybe spending a month in Thailand is sometimes all you need, or just giving yourself the ability to exhale is what I call it.
Yeah, the retreats are good. That's what the retreats are for. And the retreats you kind of have to sometimes get out of your environment or to really like process and heal and move forward. So that's why I think, if you're a veteran, you want to do like a travel retreat, you want to do like a ayahuasca retreat, you want to do a yoga retreat, you want to do any type of retreat, like I think those can be especially helpful. And like you mentioned, it's the responsibility factor is big. Like you have to take responsibility. Like that's what you should do anyways. Take responsibility for your own mental health, for your own physical health, even. and you got to take that personal responsibility. And if the government broke you, then maybe the fix is elsewhere. Like if the VA isn't helping you, like you gotta look within and kind of design your own treatment plan. Even if you're not a doctor, like for me, it's like I'm just gonna try different stuff. Like so, I tried different things. I tried doing different stuff to improve myself, and I realized that how complicated life is. That sometimes you need a lot of different things. It's not just one pill. Like it's like, oh, I need to be in nature more, or I need to eat healthier. Oh, I should if I scuba dive once a week. Like that's a really powerful thing for me. So kind of figuring out that own personal recipe for your mental health, I think is something more better and should like seriously sit down and consider.
Yeah, I wrote that Veteran's Guide to Mastering Life as I was on my own journey to taking responsibility for my own mental health, which people always look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're a doctor, you should know." And it's like I try not to, they may say doctors make the worst patients, and I try not to do that, but it did come to a point where it was like I'm not taking responsibility because I'm a doctor. I'm taking responsibility because I'm a person. And being a veteran, you have kind of a heads, I would say like a step up compared to everybody else because you're used to being in situations where you have to make the decisions, but you have all of this guidance. So between your guides and a lot of the other things that are out there, I think that veterans are starting to kind of put together like a resource library. Like they have a lot of things and a lot of places to go seek help. So at least non-traditional means for seeking help. So, but yeah, thank you so much for being here. I wanted to give you a second. Is there anything that you want to throw out there, or anything that you wanted to shout out? Hey guys, I wanted to interrupt this video real quick and remind you that my free guide, Wellness, Wisdom, and Warfare, A Veteran's Guide for Mastering Life, is now available for download using the link in the description, or if you go to my website, jessievirga.com/free guide, or it's under the podcast tab, you can download it for absolutely free. It's over 60 pages of just tips and tricks and things to help my veterans out there master their health, master their fitness, master their mental and spiritual health, just things that I've learned through my journey as just a veteran and that I've learned as an educator and as a professional in multiple fields, as an entrepreneur. I put all these things in one place and I've put it together for absolutely free. So again, link is in the description, or if you head to my website, jessievirga.com, you can download it for absolutely free.
I just like to tell veterans, hey, if you're interested in moving abroad, go check out my website. I have my free Veterans Guide to Moving Abroad, as well as my blog, which has a ton of articles. Even has an article on like veteran in Germany and Thailand and Costa Rica and Mexico, like all these different resources and country specific guides. And then new YouTube channel, Veteran Affirmations, which I'm super excited about because, like I said, it's the first affirmation channel for veterans. And you can go hear, if you're not tired of hearing my voice, you can go hear my voice, you can hear other veterans' voices, and talking about our personal experiences with mental health, as well as, helping other veterans rewire their brain to positivity, to success, to healing. So go check that out, Veteran Affirmations on YouTube.
Yeah, thanks so much. This new video, the second one that you sent me today, was awesome. So definitely recommend that everybody goes checks it out. I will leave a link in the video description. But with that, thank you so much for being here, John.